So let me ask you, Hassan, if it's 100 times less, what are you doing quoting this number?
Trigger. 100% trigger.
Rebuttals. They're a strange thing, aren't they? For example, just last year, like 2 days ago, I was just sitting down with a cup of joe, just having some fun, working on some videos, editing, just doing my thing. And then I came across this asshole. And guess what he was doing to catch my attention? He was actually attacking my psychological daddy, Jordan Peterson. And I was like, what? That's not gonna fly. And here we are. TYT, get ready. Get ready, TYT. I'm coming for you.
What do you think are the things that people, and I'm especially thinking of your opponents, get wrong about you?
Their basic proposition is that, first of all, that I'm a right-winger of some sort, and that's just not the case.
Hi guys, just want to remind you all that Jordan Peterson is not a socially conservative lifestyle guru, and he certainly isn't white Deepak Chopra taking advantage of men who feel alienated in our increasingly divided hell world. And you know what? In this short video essay, I will prove that to you.
Oh, they turn to world sarcasm. That's so cute. Better late than never, I guess.
There are plenty of other things I'd love to talk about Peterson, but it would never fit in the format of just one video. So if you have any additional questions or tell me how much I suck, you can direct them to me directly.
Okay, will do.
First, let's listen to some of the things Jordan Peterson said in this Breitbart exclusive from a conference where he was the guest speaker alongside many of these other non-ideologue individuals like Sebastian Gorka and Dennis Prager and Tucker Carlson. Here he is with Charlie Kirk, Donald Trump Jr., Kimberly Guilfoyle, and even Jack Pizzagate Posobiec. Not a conservative, by the way, just not a conservative.
You know, Jordan Peterson fights on the side of truth. And since currently the conservative right stands behind many more truths than your leftist masters, it only stands to reason that Jordan Peterson and people like myself would more often find ourselves in the conservative camp.
I think it's partly also a consequence of the fact that we haven't adapted to the birth control pill yet. It was a major technological revolution, the birth control pill, and it's only been 50 years. And we haven't figured out what it means for women to have control over the reproductive function, or what the consequences what the consequences of that should be socially.
It looks to me like Jordan Peterson was invited to speak to and educate many of the attendees at the event you've shown. However, I can understand. I mean, the left never gets any education out of their events, so it's only natural you can make that mistake. Dennis Prager and Tucker Carlson, they're some of the most soft-spoken people on the right that I can think of, and you're equating them to the far right?
Now, Jordan has a lot of wacky ideas about women in the workplace, but that's for another video. In this video, I want to talk about his perspective on trans rights, because that's a big point of contention for a lot of people, including feminist, liberal TERFs, or for those of you who are not extremely online, trans exclusionary radical feminists, basically people who say like this.
I'm not saying that people should not be allowed to go through that procedure. What I'm saying is it doesn't make them a woman.
Yeah, you tell that old woman what for. She's not allowed an opinion if it's different from yours.
But Hassan, you said he was conservative, and this person's a liberal, and they're in agreement.
Oh shit! Infighting has started. Maybe a feminist can get out of there before the inevitable kaboom!
Yeah, that's also for another video. Okay, back to Peterson. Jordan Peterson initially made a name for himself by misrepresenting Bill C-16 in Canada, which expanded previous legislation on hate speech to include gender identity, in accordance with international human rights.
In this video, I'll prove to you, beyond the shadow of a doubt, that this is utter horseshit. And Jordan Peterson had and has had the right to stand against Bill C-16, as all of us should have, and he already did.
And of course, the backlash was tremendous. People started praising Dr. Peterson as a brave truth teller, finally standing up against those trans bastards who dared to ask for equal rights.
That's the thing, isn't it? They're not asking for equal rights. They're asking to be treated differently than everyone else. They're essentially asking for affirmative action based on sexual expression. And guess what? Someone needs to stand against it. Thank you, Professor Peterson, for standing up for all of our rights.
And of course, then there were a lot of radical ideologues who claimed that I, Dr. Jordan Peterson, was transphobic.
Not a great community film impression, by the way.
They were all somehow taking me out of context. Look, I'm not against trans people existing. I'm just against being compelled to call someone by a pronoun.
Yes, I'm against being compelled. this should be the end of this video, but Hassan has a bit more trouble understanding compulsion than the average 4th grader.
Other than what I think they should be called.
Why are you against the use of alternate pronouns?
I'm against the use of legislation to determine what words that myself and other people are required to utter.
Except the Canadian Bar Association expressly mentions that this is simply a mischaracterization of the law, which is probably why 0 people have gone to jail over misgender crimes in Canada. But what do I know?
Nothing. You know nothing. We've backed that position up already. Bill C-16 would also give the Canadian Human Rights Commission new powers to improve civil penalties or fines on businesses for discriminating against transgender people. So they're going to give me more fines and penalties. And if I disagree with that, if I don't agree with paying those fines and penalties, what then? Is it jail time maybe? Using their own pronouns repeatedly after being made aware that a person uses other pronouns might amount to harassment, a position that is taken by the Ontario Human Rights Commission. Accidental or occasional use of their own pronouns would not be sufficiently grave or frequent to be considered harassment under the law. Well, that's odd. What if my use isn't accidental or occasional? What if I just don't think that that guy over there is a girl? And I continue calling him a him. It's not because I want to harass him or disrespect him. It's because I think he's mentally ill and I shall not pander to his bullshit. What then? Am I gonna get penalties again? Am I gonna get fines again? Is he going to raise an act against me for discrimination? What happens then? How do I not go to jail in your worldview? Come on, I'm begging for something here. By inciting a breach of peace, you will open yourself up to 2 years imprisonment. 2 motherfucking years. Because I don't acknowledge that that dude is a girl. No. Just no. What the fuck, Ontario? What the fuck, Canada? Prosecutors are genuinely unwilling to charge people under that provision. Well, maybe not everyone is retarded. And in the most famous hate speech case, RV Kickster, whatever, the perpetrator was not sentenced to prison but rather to probation and community service. Fun times how the most talked about and famous case is actually about anti-Semitism. Has nothing to do with transgender. Funny thing that. The Ontario Human Rights Commission, for example, in their policy of preventing discrimination because of gender identity and expression, states that gender harassment should include refusing to refer to a person by their self-identified name and proper personal pronoun. In other words, pronoun misuse may become actionable to the Human Rights Tribunal and courts. And the remedies? Monetary damages, non-financial remedies, for example, ceasing the discriminatory practice, or reinstatement to job. No, John, I will not stop calling you a him. I don't care that you're Jane now. That dude is called Jane, is what I would say. And no, John, I'm not gonna reinstate you or Jane or anyone else you believe you are to work because I think you're mentally unfit for it. And I'm gonna be sued for that? It was a little disappointing to hear it in the Senate, but not surprising. Panel said C-16 opponents were a loud minority, but a very small minority, and added that the Senate vote, which was overwhelmingly in favor of the bill, was really reflective of how Canadians feel about this. I have no doubt. What I have an issue with is it doesn't reflect how Canadians can think. Just feel. On the practical side, he said in human rights law, it makes it crystal clear that trans and gender diverse people can seek redress if they experience discrimination. Of course, everyone should be able to seek redress if they experience discrimination. It's just that me saying that you're a man is not discrimination. Who decides what discrimination is, folks? I don't know anymore. Oh, I see. So, because we're gonna go to jail for not paying the fine or not reinstating them to whatever job, something else, whatever they're compelling us to do or trying, that's why we're gonna go to jail, not because of the pronouns or anything. I see, I get it, I'm with you, I got you, man, you admit we're like that. Wait, no, that doesn't make remotely any sense. But then again, not much spewing out of his mouth does.
I think I made my position on that clear already.
I get it. It's real easy to make someone seem silly, even if they completely dwarf you intellectually. Just speed up their voice.
Well, perhaps not to our audience at home who are just being introduced to this. Would you use alternate pronouns? And why not? Because I don't believe that other people have the right to determine what language I use, especially when it's backed by punitive legislation. And when the words that are being required are the constructions, they're artificial constructions of people I regard as radical ideologues whose viewpoint I do not share.
But we won't do that here. No, really, we won't. There's no need to. He's already doing a magnificent job of making a fool of himself.
I mean, Peterson's being totally reasonable here, right? Like if a person told me their name was John, I might refuse to call them that because I think their name is actually Bart. Sorry, Bart, you can't compel me to call you anything else.
Bart has been calling himself that for the past 10 years I've known him. And if he wants to call himself John or Janine or whatever, that's totally his business. Just as much as it's my business if I want to call myself the guy who porked your mom last night. Now, you're not compelled to call me that. Just as I'm not compelled to humor Bart and his delusions. Get it, Cupcake?
This assignment is totally not arbitrary, just like gender is totally not a social construct. All men have to express themselves in this traditionally masculine, Western sense, and I've never cared to research how other cultures view gender. Sorry, not going to do it. Someone with less bone density than myself, for example, who can't grow body hair, facial hair, who is 5'4", maybe has a higher pitch, is now going to be considered a woman since gender is absolutely binary. Take that, Jen Shapiro! She is pretty hot, though.
But Ben Shapiro can impregnate another member of his species, and he's done so twice. That we know of! Heyo! That points to him being male, you Neanderthal. Same as the ability to give birth points to you being a female member of the species.
But speaking of gender identity and how it absolutely is not functional if we were to live by Jordan Peterson's rules, let's play a little experiment. What pronouns would you use for this person? What pronouns would you use for this person? Well, how about this person? Or even this beautiful MAGA broad? Or this person whose YouTube channel you should absolutely watch because she's amazing even though she doesn't reply to my DMs on Twitter. Like, imagine meeting up with Valentina Sampaio at a restaurant. How would you point her out? Dr. Peterson claims he'd call them by the pronoun assigned to them at birth, which is literally insane. For those of you who didn't get the point that I was making, every single person I just showed you are very famous trans people. But yeah, this is totally about free speech and not because Jordan Peterson is a transphobe or whatever.
See, I came up with this example while speaking to a friend the other day. Mentally ill people, same as children, want the ability to decide for themselves on certain areas of their lives. That doesn't mean you think they shouldn't have rights, does it? When you don't let 12-year-olds drive a car, it's not because you don't think they should have the right of driving or to own a vehicle. It's because you don't think they're ready to make such a decision on their own. Later on, hopefully with a lot of help from others around them, they'll gain or regain that ability. It's not that you're denying them their rights, it's that you're protecting their lives and everyone else's right not to be run over by the kid. It's not because you're denying them their rights or their humanity, merely questioning their ability to read into reality at the moment.
Do you think a trans woman is a woman?
No.
Oh, so that's why he was refusing to do that. I mean, this is a principled academic philosopher king. We're probably taking him out of context. I'm sure he has reasons. Give us your reasons, Dr. Peterson.
Why not?
Because I think that women are capable, generally speaking, of having babies, and they have female genitalia, and they have an XX chromosome, and I think the biological markers are relevant.
Okay. First off, Buck Angel has XX chromosomes and female genitalia, so I'd be hard-pressed for Dr. Peterson to point out to him in a crowd and try to get others to identify him as a woman since all of those standards apply to old Buck. Also, are we no longer considering girls who haven't had their first periods women? What about women who have gone through menopause? Sorry, Ruth Bader Ginsburg, you're no longer a woman. I will be referring to you as a male now. Do you see my point?
Stupid! Yes, a person not having the organs to give birth is not a woman. Not having developed those organs yet, or having lost their functionality, doesn't mean that you stop being a woman. Same as with little girls. We call them girls, not women, because they need to flower into one. Are you starting to get it, you affirmative action simpleton?
Socially speaking, the reality is that we make assumptions about gender from visual cues and not off of chromosomes.
Yes, finally something correct. We make assumptions. Like with old Buck here. I made the assumption Buck was a man. And if what you say for his chromosomes and genitalia is true, then I was wrong. I'm fine with admitting that I was wrong. Are you? Because you have a lot to admit to, Khabib. And we don't do it off chromosomes in day-to-day interaction, because that data is much harder to test and access. Seriously, is he done? He's not making any... He's not playing. Are you sure? Okay. That's why we rely on the much less reliable visual cues. Or are you gonna say chromosomes are less reliable now? We risk mistaking Buck for a man. A mistake easy to make as you managed to point out.
Yet the leading champion of the scientific argument constantly conflates biological gender with the contextual assignment of gender we apply socially every day.
Are we gonna start calling it social gender now? Sort of like social justice? If so, I have an argument for both. See, justice doesn't need a prefix. Same as gender. If you put one, something like mob justice or social justice, it ceases to be justice altogether. Same with gender. It's no longer gender nor justice.
But even on the biological front, Peterson's principled analysis falls short, since there are plenty of people who would be considered intersex.
Plenty of people? Why the 0.05%?
Specifically, 1.7% of the world's population. In context, by the way, if you want to say that, well, that's a tiny minority of people who gives a well, you're a douchebag. Also, that number is higher than the number of Jewish people on this planet.
1.7? Well, that's many times more. Am I the dumbass here? Let's investigate. Now, I really want to make sure that we do our research correctly here, so I have 3 different sources to look to. Let us begin with Intersex Society of North America. How common is intersex? To answer this question, we need to go to different levels, but the thing is, they actually go and bring us some different statistics, like the not XX and XY chromosomes, it's 1 in 1,666 birds. Klinefelter is 1 in 1,000 birds. And the thing is that each of those are about 0.5% or something. I mean, 0.05%, which is like 1/20%. But they claim that if you put them together, unlike it's been done until recently, you get to about 1.7%, what Hassan was claiming. I think that's pretty much where he's getting it. The other studies don't group them together. Here it goes. Some groups use an old prevalence statistic that says we make up 1 in 2,000 or 0.05% of the population. But that statistic refers to one specific intersex trait, ambiguous genitalia, which is but one of many variations which, combined as their medical diagnostic coding, constitute the 1.7 estimate by esteemed professor of biology and gender studies, Anne Faustino Sterling of Brown University. I think that's where you got your 1.7%. Thing is, that's not how everyone does it. And most people actually don't agree with that method. Let's just have a look at Intersex Human Rights Australia. A distinct narrow approach is also seen in a 2002 paper by Dr. Leon Sachs, which states, Anne Faustino Sterling's suggestion that the prevalence of intersex might be as high as 1.7% has attracted wide attention in both the scholarly press and the popular media. Many reviewers are not aware that this figure includes conditions which most clinicians do not recognize as intersex, such as Klinefelter syndrome, Turner syndrome, and late-onset adrenal hyperplasia. If the term intersex is to retain any meaning, the term should be restricted to those conditions in which chromosomal sex is inconsistent with phenotypic sex, or in which the phenotype is not classifiable as either male or female. Applying this more precise definition, the true prevalence of intersex is seen to be about 0.018, almost 100 times lower than Faustino Sterling's estimate of 1.7. So let me ask you, Hassan, if it's 100 times less, what are you doing quoting this number? Our recommendation, use the mid-range estimate for now. So you're not too offensive and you're also not scientifically wrong. And even if I magically give you that 1.7, it still wouldn't matter. We don't make laws and legislations to accommodate the minority. We make them to make sure nobody's being treated unfairly. If you think you're a dog and you should eat dog food and not go to work, I'm entirely within my right as your employer to stop paying you. And no, I'll not scratch your belly. That's not me harassing you. That's me not adhering to your mentally ill demands. Same as when you're asking me to call a boy a girl and a girl a boy. You're harassing me to scratch your belly and to adhere to your mentally ill beliefs and demands. While I don't want anything to do with you. Probably why I fired you the moment you came into the office barking naked and started pissing all over the cactus. Go leave your wife and leave me the heck out of it. Or sincerely ask for help. Don't ask me to ponder to your mental illness or to your mental insincerity, Hassan.
Oh, okay. Have you made it up to this point? Now, here are some personal opinions that I have that will most likely piss off some people who considered me an ally up to this point. So if you're deep into gender theory, this might upset you, and if you're a trans person, you might think I'm excusing transphobia, so there it is, I'm issuing a trigger warning. Are we alone yet? Okay, I get why this concept is terrifyingly alien to so many people, okay? This is partially due to centuries of oppression, lack of medical advances, the Nazis.
In the last century that you're talking about, we've actually advanced medical science faster and more reliably than ever before. Penicillin, birth control, cancer treatment, probiotics, CRISPR. Need I go on? The Nazis were actually manic about medical treatment because they were trying to prove that whole eugenics bullshit. So they actually advanced medical science. And after the war, the winner countries took all that research and data,
setting back trans research by centuries with their book burnings, and in this day and age, a lack of representation in media. I get it. It's already difficult enough to defend your worldview on things that you barely understand, like complex political theories, but changing your mind on something as concrete as gender that you've been conditioned into thinking about in a binary way requires tremendous amounts of introspection.
Because it is binary. You can either be the impregnator or the impregnatee. There's no third option, and thank God there isn't. If it required 3 entities to come together instead of just 2, procreation would be much less likely. On the other hand, you probably wouldn't be here. On top of that, all of you social justice war folks seem to forget that gender and sex's primary function is to procreate. In humans and in other species, sex is also being used for pleasure. However, that's only used to advance the main goal. That way, sex happens rather more than if, for example, it were to cause severe pain. Make sense? Well, if it doesn't, I'm sorry. I can't stand any simpler. You're doomed.
So here is my olive branch to those who haven't had to think about this until now. Trans women are women, and trans men are men. So while I understand that your only introduction to trans folk has probably been hysterical college freshmen on YouTube compilations screaming at your intellectual daddy, there's more to it than that.
Yes, there is more. So much more. And because there is so much more, we have enough to make the compilations. Because you people haven't stopped embarrassing yourselves. And actually harming trans people in the process. All for your political agenda.
There are plenty of brilliant trans men and women who are more informed on this subject than myself.
Everyone seems to be more informed than you. But more importantly, see how this discount 80s closeted private eye continues to spew bullshit to the mentally ill? Why, they're all just fine, and it's society who's harassing them by demanding that we all share the same standards of truth, evidence, and reality as a mentally healthy human. To proclaim someone as a member of one of the 2 genders we have available, we need to use science, technology, truth, and reality, and not how we feel about it. Or else, that proclamation of belonging to one of the 2 sexes is completely meaningless. Real talk. You're willing to accept their mental illness as something to be glorified and normalized, all in the hopes that those mentally ill people like what you have to say and will vote Democrat come election day. Well, I actually care about those people's lives enough not to lie to them and let them die for a political agenda. That's the difference between the 2 of us. All you care about is their votes. What I care about is their lives. Even if that makes me unpopular among the very people I'm trying to help. Because being liked is far less important to me than saving people's lives. Hey guys, let me know if you think I'm right, or if you think I'm a hater bigot. Thanks a bunch, and I'll see you guys next time.